Check. Oh, let me do my clap. 1, 2, 3. Mic check.
Check.
Oh man, it's been a long time coming. Sorry we've been MIA. I got a really bad injury, and I'm surprised we're recording this week. But the ATP is here, Around the Post podcast with your boy Jay. Mark Figueroa is in the building, and we're back. We're back. So sorry for the delay. Sorry we disappeared. It's a long story. I don't know if I should tell the story on this podcast, but long story short, I have a really bad back injury, and I couldn't even sit, so I couldn't podcast. But I can sit now, somewhat healthy. It's going to be a long process healing, but we're potting. How are you feeling? Are you healthy?
Yes, I'm healthy, and you have a very similar injury to a player that happened today, so it's relatable.
Yeah, we can talk more about it.
Yes, we can talk more.
I don't want to relate to him, but yes. I guess I have to.
Yes, so obviously we have a lot of news to cover. We're not going to cover all of the French Open, just the big highlights. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of Alcaraz news, a ton. Obviously, he's the big story right now. Mm-hmm. So I'll just give a little bit of a snippet towards him. It's just there's so much news I can talk about a lot, but... Mm-hmm. He just got, before going into the WTA news that we normally do, he just got a Nike contract worth $15 to $20 million. And he is going to have his own logo, just as Nadal, you know? It's not going to be a bull.
Of course.
It's going to be something different, but what is it going to be?
I don't know.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, well-deserved. Good job, Nike, for... procuring an extensive contract with a future Hall of Fame athlete, a future legend, the future of tennis. I mean, great move. And he seems to be associating himself with very quality brands, not necessarily the best sponsors on earth, but brands that are highly reputable, good for tennis and stuff like that. Him and Sinner, actually, are both doing a very good job there. So this is a good look for Nike. They made a good call.
Yes, again, it's going to be interesting to know what the logo is going to be, but when it comes out, it'll definitely be something big. Mm-hmm. So, in the last 6 Roland Garros finals, there has been a first-time Slam finalist in the Roland Garros final. Mm-hmm. This one being Paolini. What are your thoughts on the French Open for the past 6 years, always having a new finalist in the women's draw?
To me, it speaks a lot to there not being a deep line of clay specialists, and also Iga being leagues ahead of everyone else on the clay. You know, she's there most of the time, so it is interesting that when they're on clay, it seems like it almost levels the playing field. Might be the best way to put it. It doesn't favor very many WTA players. So I would like to see that change, but I can't really think of anyone outside of Iga who's truly a clay court specialist.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yes, so speaking of Paolini, this year she made the second round of the Australian Open, and so she's been struggling in Grand Slams. So she did end up making both the doubles final and the singles final.
It's huge.
She did lose both, but she did make the final. What are your thoughts on her magical run?
I hope that it's signs of what's to come. To be honest with you, I would have never guessed it was coming, but it's huge. I'm a little disappointed she didn't at least pull off the doubles. I didn't see her winning against Iga and Clay. I didn't see that coming, but I thought it was possible in doubles. But she had to go against somebody with a chip on their shoulder.
Right, and we'll talk about her in a bit as well.
So that explains that, I guess.
Yes, and now she reached a career high ranking of 7 in the world.
Wow.
So again, she wins her. She only makes it to the second round in the Australian Open this year, to now all of a sudden being number 7 in the world.
We've talked about this before, but that drop off in the WTA, once you get past that really thick, dense top 5-6-ish, boom, it's a huge drop off. And the point disparity is pretty large there. It seems like the women's top 6 kind of have a monopoly on most of the points on the tour.
Right.
So when someone has a major breakthrough, the gap gets shrunk very quickly.
Exactly. So now we're going to talk about the lady with the chip on her shoulder, Coco Gauff.
What's up, lady?
Yes, she has 3 straight Grand Slam semifinals. What are your thoughts on that?
I see her. She's currently in what we call gatekeeper realm. She's definitely rock solid. She beats everyone she's supposed to beat, quote unquote. But now she's at that point where it's go time. You got to start beating the people you're not supposed to beat. You've got to start taking out the Rabakinas, the Igas, the Sabalenkas, maybe the Osakas. She's got to separate herself in some way or find her niche or her opening to become more than just a semifinalist on all surfaces. But yeah, I mean, to me, Coco Gauff is there. She's officially in that status where the only thing left to do is be the best.
Right,
that's all that's left.
No, exactly. And she did win the doubles championship with Sinyukova, who Barbara Krejcikova. They decided to split, and Sinyukova ended up playing with Coco and wins the tournament.
Yeah, and Coco was very excited to have such a good partner. So.
Yes, exactly. She's a double specialist, Sinyukova. So what are your thoughts on her avenging that singles loss?
It was good to hear. I heard her say in her press conference after losing to Iga, I think it was after losing to Iga, she wasn't going to let the same thing that happened last time where she let the black cloud of losing the singles final kind of reign over her doubles final, and she didn't play to her best ability. She said, this time I'm going to go in with a different mindset and play to win that thing and not let my partner down. And she did that. So you can tell she's learning from experience with her mindset. So that's good.
Yes, and again, she is now number 2 in the world. We talked about that last time. So that was pretty big as well. But now the big controversy was a call that was made on her. So she talked about tennis needs to come to the new world. They need to do more reviews as the NFL does. A ball was called out. The judge overruled it, and Coco Gauff had a play on it. But since she heard the out call, she didn't hit it, and the ball was in. So the chair umpire's rule stood, and she ended up losing that point. And she started to cry. She was just adamant about it. She's all, how can you not know the rules? This is a Grand Slam semifinal. You need to know the rules. And then people were actually saying, Serena Williams used to be treated this way as well. What are your thoughts on people saying that Coco Gauff and Serena Williams are being treated equally?
I don't know if I feel that this is a race card thing. I don't think so. I think that this is an infrastructural tennis issue. This issue is happening all the time. It's almost each tournament that there's issues with umpires and calls and controversy. Should we replay it? Should we use Hawkeye? Is there even a Hawkeye? Those are the issues I'm seeing the most. And I think that there needs to be a new checks and balances system. I think that there's an imbalance in how much leverage and power the umpire has versus how much actual ability they have to see everything. I don't think they're necessarily cheating people. I think they just are human, and they can't see everything, and they're trained and forced to make a call and stand by it.
Yes.
They can't be, okay, I changed my mind. They can't do that. So for me, I think that there needs to be a new process similar to the NBA, the NFL. The umpire, maybe the supervisor get together, they rewatch it on camera privately. They maybe use Hawkeye, they use all their tools and resources, and they make an official decision, and we put a limit on how many times can that be done in a match.
Yes.
To me, that's the end-all, be-all solution. And if we're still having issues, let's talk about special treatment, lower treatment of some than others, things like that, after that happens.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
my thoughts.
Yes, virtual video is what they're using a lot on the NFL. But now a very interesting comment was made in the post-match after the semifinal. They asked Iga, do you think Coco's improving? Matt Wielander was saying, what kind of question is that to ask of somebody when they're 11-1 against them? Do you think that was an appropriate question to ask Iga if Coco is improving when she's 11-1 against her?
Here's the thing. If anyone knows if Coco is getting better or not, it could be the person who is waiting to lose to the player. Maybe Iga goes, you know what? That was harder than usual. She's getting better. I don't know. I think it's kind of annoying and funny, and it's a media question. It's their job to try to ask those questions that get the interesting answers. But should you be asking Iga about the improvement of Coco Gauff? Probably not. But does Iga probably really have the answer? Yes. I think Iga would have the answer. I think Iga will be one of the first people to recognize, okay, she's made these adjustments. She was tougher. These shots didn't work as easily. I wasn't able to steamroll through her like I usually do. But I think Iga on clay versus Coco, there's no barometer there to really know the answer in general because the gap's too large.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. But there was a very interesting comment in Twitter sphere about how the WTA is becoming very linear. And how people are comparing these girls to Serena. So a lot of them were saying Serena, there is no comparison between Rybakina, Sabalenka, Coco Gauff. There's no comparison between them and Serena. As a matter of fact, Andrea Petkovic, who now works for the Tennis Channel, 2 years ago said, even Naomi Osaka is more comparable, but she still just hits the ball to hit the ball. Serena Williams, actually, it may appear that she just struck really hard, but she actually had a game plan.
Yeah.
And she didn't just strike the ball hard all the time, unlike Naomi.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that assessment about Serena compared to all these girls?
Yes and no. So, was Serena a more all-surface, more tactical, more strategic player than essentially the top 5 in the WTA right now? Yeah, I do agree with that. Serena, to me, was an all-surface player, was able to be the favorite at every slam, every tournament, make every final for a long stint of time, right? Serena was able to stay number 1 through 5 without playing nearly as many events.
That's true.
Which means showing up and getting the most out of herself when she played. And I think that that's something no one, including Iga, is doing yet. I think Iga is on her way. I don't think Iga's there yet. I think Iga is a clay specialist that is sneakily becoming an all-surface player. And until she really asserts herself on grass, for example, I don't think she's in the same conversations as the GOAT women just yet. But the other ones, Rybakina, Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, no, they're not even in the universe of conversation. And that includes Naomi Osaka as well. Yeah, I think Osaka, her firepower and athleticism, I see where the comparisons come from. But the tactics, even Osaka being humble enough to say she's not good on clay or grass and she's going to start working on it, tell you enough. When have we ever heard Serena say those kind of things? She was already working on them when she was a teenager. So yeah, it's crazy to associate Serena's name with these players this premature.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Osaka did have a wonderful game plan against Swiatek, and she is getting better on the tactical side of it. But yeah, for the most part, she's very linear. She has a couple of patterns, but she doesn't have the patterns that Serena did, for sure. So now let's talk about the champion, Iga. She is the first woman in 10 years to win the same Grand Slam event for 3 straight years since Serena did the U.S. Open. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we kind of spoke to this a bit earlier, but it's a balance of two things, right? One being she is overall the best player on the tour right now. Bottom line. That's one thing. The other thing, who else is actually a clay court specialist on the women's tour right now that is a top 10 player? I don't know who's supposed to take her out at the French Open. That's the $1 million question. So to me, as impressive as this is, I think that she is kind of the big fish in the small pond right now. So I think that her dominance is impressive, and being the best player on clay to me has always been. I've never seen a best player on clay not be a future Hall of Fame athlete, ever. So to me, this is a great sign of what's to come, because when you see a grass court specialist, sometimes they come up short in the rest of their career trajectory. Hard court specialists, it's a cheat code because most of the tour is on hard court. Clay court specialists usually find ways to translate their game elsewhere and do fantastically as a career. So, yeah, I have high hopes for her, but I don't think her doing it is the same as Serena doing it at the U.S. Open. I think that there's a little disparity between the competition.
Okay, so it was more open at the U.S. Open for Serena, so that's why it carries more weight.
I think it was tougher. The Kim Kleisters, the Hennins, most of her competition were great at the U.S. Open.
Okay.
Or I should say were more of a threat at the U.S. Open.
Okay.
And who is the real threat for Iga at the French?
Yeah, besides Sabalenka, if she gets there,
yeah.
or Rybakina, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming Iga for that. That's not her problem.
Right, that's true.
She's still incredible, but I do think there was a little more concerns in means for strategy if you're Serena going to the U.S. Open final.
Okay, that's fair. And she is the youngest of the four big players to get to four. Mm-hmm. So Iga is 23 years and 9 days with four Roland Garros. Mm-hmm. Justine Henin was 25. Chris Evert was 25, and Steffi Graf was 25 when she got her four. So Iga's 2 years younger than them, and she already has four Roland Garros. Any thoughts there?
I anticipate Iga becoming the greatest female clay court player in history. That's my prediction. I don't think that's really a hot take, but that's my take. So I think we're watching the future Rafa of the WTA.
That's what they're saying.
Sprouting. I think that's what we're seeing. Because the gap isn't close.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault. She's so great on that surface. You take Iga out of the French Open draw, it's a war. It's an absolute dogfight to take that Grand Slam if she's not in the equation. So that sounds a lot like someone we know.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to talk about Venus a little bit. She celebrated her 44th birthday. So happy birthday to her. But the big news here is that she was in Milan. I guess it was a fashion show. And guess who was with her? Riley Opelka.
Wow.
It's been all over. Oh, are they dating, not dating? But they seem to always be together. Mm-hmm. What do you think here?
They definitely have an affinity for each other, at the very least. I think they have some similar passions and interests and hobbies. And yeah, we've been seeing them in the same room, in the same places for 2 or 3 years at least. So I like it. I'd like to see Riley get on tour. Yes. But, that's a different conversation for a different time.
Exactly. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, and now we have the women wild cards for Wimbledon.
Okay.
So we have the big names, which is Kerber, former champion, yeah. Osaka. Heather Watson is a English player. Wozniacki.
Okay.
And Raducanu.
Nice.
No surprise there.
Yeah.
Halep was not given a wild card.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that list of wild cards?
I like it. They took care of one of their hometown people in Watson. And obviously, Osaka is going to fill a stadium. Raducanu is going to fill a stadium and is from there. And then, who was the last one you said?
Kerber.
Yeah. Kerber's an ex-winner.
She's a champion.
Yeah,
yes.
She's an ex-winner. I believe she beat Serena when she did it.
I believe so.
Yeah, so, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's a great list. I actually like all of those. And keep your eyes open because that means that first round is going to be a zoo at Wimbledon.
Exactly.
It's going to be insane. So expect some really tough first-round matchups for some players.
Yes, and then the power couple, de Minaur and girlfriend, I'm forgetting her name right now. Maybe you can remember it. I
definly forgot.
I forgot her name,
I'll get it for you.
They ended up winning. KD Bolter.
Oh, Bolter.
Bolter.
Okay.
They ended up winning this a tournament in the same week on grass.
Really?
Yes. What are your thoughts on the power couple here?
Interesting. I like to hear it. Maybe this is better than CC Dosa.
Yes, way better. Already.
Very interesting.
All right, so now we're going to go to the men. Again, there's a lot of Rafa news, but this is an interesting one. Rafa Nadal was voted as the sport's most dominant athlete in the 21st century. And he was the competition was between him and Usain Bolt, and he was nominated the most dominant athlete of the 21st century.
Nadal was?
Yes. It was him and Bolt in the final round.
Interesting.
I think it had to do with his dominance at Roland Garros, obviously.
It has to be.
But what are your thoughts on that?
What platform was this again?
ESPN.
Okay, that makes more sense. I hate to be a hater, but ESPN is notorious for missing fine details in the game of tennis in their reporting and media. But I'll say this. Nadal on clay is the most dominant force in tennis. So if we're going to frame it that way, I love this. Comparing him to Usain Bolt I think it's a reasonable comparison if we're talking Nadal on clay. So,
yes.
So yeah, I actually do like this result. I just don't think I think it's a little misleading for a tennis casual to be told that Nadal was the most dominant guy in tennis. I think that's a little misleading because
I agree.
It's definitely Djokovic. It definitely is. But, it is what it is. If we're going to talk on clay, you know what they say, Mount Everest in all of sports is beating Nadal at Roland Garros on the clay. That's right. Mount Everest.
Yes.
So, with that being said, I do like it.
Yes, exactly. And Bolt had his 2 specialty events as well that he crushed in almost every Olympic.
Every time.
So it's a fair comparison for sure. And of course, an end of an era, as we know. The big 3. This is the first time since 2004 that they didn't even make it to the semifinals. Obviously, Djokovic had that injury. What are your thoughts on that? Is this the end of an era? We're going to talk about this a little later as well.
Honestly, I think this is the actual start to the end of an era. I really do. I've never said that before. I've never felt it yet until now. I really do think so.
I agree. I mean, it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, the injury I heard Djokovic has, I went, oh, man. That's something you don't come back and dominate Alcaraz with. You just don't. So I do think Djokovic makes a return. I do think Nadal has some more matches in his tank. I don't think either of them are dominating any slams moving forward. You'll be lucky if Djokovic does.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. And Alcaraz and Sinner was the youngest Grand Slam semifinal since Nadal and Murray in 2008 U.S. Open.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. What are your thoughts on that?
It seems like they've been the young guys for 5 years.
Yes, exactly.
But I know that's not the case. But yeah, it's awesome. Sinner and Alcaraz are the future.
Yes.
And of course, we've talked about this before, but the Zverevs, the Medvedevs, that second class of guys, they're going to be the ones who are in those semis and making those finals and sneaking those breakthroughs. And it will be Alcaraz and Sinner who are the people to beat in these finals.
Right.
So.
Yes. So now we're going to get to the Andy Murray news. Obviously the injury, but prior to that, he and Jamie were supposed to play Wimbledon doubles. The brothers playing together. Honestly, we don't know if he's going to play now, but what are your thoughts on that team?
That's a great team, actually. Andy Murray is I don't want to call him an underrated doubles player, but he's a rock-solid doubles player. He is good at doubles. I do remember him and Feliciano Lopez making a run at Acapulco and winning when they were both Feliciano was on the tail end of leaving the tour. Murray was just trying to come back to the tour, and they strung a few wins together and made some noise. And Jamie Murray is a true elite double specialist. So those two coming together is special. And that's a lefty-righty combo.
Exactly. People may call me crazy, but Jamie Murray has hands for sure. And I would put him with the Bryan brothers right there with that touch. And I think he has the best hands for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that what separates Jamie Murray and the Bryan brothers is more so what he does in the really tough points, in the really tough situations. He's not clutch. He's not. I don't know if you remember a lot of his matches, but when it's super, super tight, I've seen him make a lot of unforced errors. So I'm curious to see how that changes moving forward.
Yes, I agree. And now the big news, not the injury. He played his 1,000th total match, won it. He is 739 and 262 now since he withdrew. What are your thoughts on that career?
That's a over 70% winning percentage, even with him playing all of these matches injured and losing all these matches due to not being at his peak anymore. That's incredible. Shout out to Andy Murray. I think I just heard Roger Federer give a speech about his career win percentage, and it was like 80-ish. So he's right behind them. That's pretty crazy. It's a great percentage.
Yes, exactly. Great career. He's done maybe 25% of it with a metal hip. So that's great. And now the big injury. I thought it was a leg injury or ankle injury because when he landed, he looked very funky landing and he hobbled a little bit. But here it was a sciatic.
It was definitely a back injury. I think it's a sciatic nerve injury. Very relatable to what I'm going through right now, which is how I was able to spot it right away when it happened. It's a bad injury, man.
Yes.
Obviously, he's got the best people behind him. He's a professional athlete, but it makes me worried about him playing Wimbledon.
So before answering that, he played at Roland Garros wanting to play the Olympics. So if you feel that if you're kind of on the fence of him playing Wimbledon, is he even going to make it to Paris?
Let's assume the best here, right? So let's assume it is a sciatic nerve back injury, which is literally not assuming the best, but let's assume he has the best possible recovery from that injury. He needs 6 weeks. That's how much time he would need to get out there and be an actual threat on the court. I think he's better off eyeing the Olympics and not eyeing Wimbledon. That's my take. If, let's say, we're totally wrong and this is just a back tweak and, he gets with his team, they correct everything, they help him out, and he's feeling back to 80% in 2 weeks or 1 week, okay, Wimbledon's possible. But it's just really unlikely. That's really unlikely, man. A back injury that you feel all the way down to your legs where you lose feeling or you have super high pain where you're getting... He said he didn't even feel like he should be on that court the second he started walking out. He said that he regretted even walking out there.
Exactly.
That tells me it's severe. So yes. I don't imagine him playing Wimbledon. I really don't. I think it'd be better just doubles maybe.
Okay, that's fair. And then that'll... kind of warm them up for the Olympics.
Right.
That's fair. So now this is a very interesting story. We have a former soccer player who played for the national team Uruguay. He was 5th in 2010, and the big trophy that they get is the Balón de Oro. And he played for Manchester United, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan. He played an ITF tournament, 45 and over. And won 6-0, 6-0.
Whoa!
And even I believe there was in the chat in social media, Isner and Opelka were going back and forth, and I believe Opelka said to Isner, "Have you ever won a match 0-0?" What are your thoughts on this soccer player ITF over 45 winning 0-0?
That is a truly incredible athlete. Seriously. Oh, man, that's mind-blowing. That's not easy to do.
And his name is Diego Forlan.
Yeah, that's really, really, really impressive. It's one thing to be an elite athlete in two things. It's another thing to double bagel someone. That's really, really tough to do. So that's a man to put on your list of well-rounded best athletes on the planet there. 'Cause that's mind-blowing. That's a great accomplishment.
Yes, if you want to check it out, he's very clean. Nice lefty serve. Nice forehand.
Oh, he's a lefty. No wonder.
So he's a very clean player for sure. So I thought that was very interesting news for sure. So now we're going to talk about Draper.
Okay.
Yes. So again, we're saving Alcaraz for last because he's making a lot of noise talking. So Draper played Tiafoe and had an insane amount of aces against Tiafoe, tore him up. He is now going to play Alcaraz. I'm going to look at the stat real quick. But what are your thoughts on Draper making a deep run? Not sort of a deep run. I think it's second or quarterfinals. But what are your thoughts on Draper?
Draper's becoming a rock solid, top 20, top 15-ish kind of guy. He's been fairly consistent over the last year or so. And this makes sense to me. This isn't a massive tournament, and Tiafoe has honestly been on the decline. So that's not surprising, and it's grass.
Yes.
So that's going to enhance all the serve records. So not super crazy, but great to see Draper doing well. I wish the best to Tiafoe. And I think the real test is going to be Alcaraz.
Oh, for sure, yes.
Because not only are we curious to see how Alcaraz is doing on grass playing against good servers, we're looking forward to seeing what Draper's really performing like against somebody who will test him. So,
right.
Good.
And he had 31 aces against Tiafoe in Stuttgart. So that was in Stuttgart, and now he's playing Alcaraz at Queen's Club. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But there's somebody that really took it to the next level. Milos Raonic had an insane amount of aces against Cam Norrie. And people online were saying it couldn't have happened to a better person. I guess Cam Norrie's not really liked. That's besides this point, I guess. 47 aces. Big Milos, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is mind-blowing. I saw the match. I mean, the guy, Milos Raonic, has had a cannon on his shoulder his whole career. He's always had a massive serve. He's one of the first players I saw in person who had like the trigger finger serve grip, where they have that pointer finger sitting a little higher on the grip to, I don't know if it helps with the wrist snap or what they're doing with it, but it's an interesting little detail in his serve motion. And yeah, I mean, he had his little Goran stint where he made a lot of noise, and he's one of those guys that is not quite serve bot, not quite Zverev, Medvedev, Kyrgios. He's kind of floating in the middle there because he has a somewhat semi-complete game.
Yes.
But yeah, this is not surprising from him. If you weren't aware of Milos and what he can do with his serve, let it be known this record's not crazy for him. And he was in great company on this list. I think it was Karlovic, Nick Kyrgios, serve bots that he's up there with some serve bots.
Yes, so. I have the list, and he didn't make a Wimbledon final for no reason.
Yeah,
Milos, that is. So again, this is the most aces in a best of 3 sets. Milos with 47, Karlovic with 45, Mark Philippoussis was definitely serve bot as well, 44. Nick Kyrgios 44 and Isner 44.
The serve bots.
Yes, what do you think of that list?
Yeah, that is a list of some of the best serves in history. So he's in great company. And the fact he's on the top of that list is mind-blowing because Isner's probably had triple tiebreaker 3-set matches.
Yes.
So the fact that he's taken out Isner on that list is impressive.
Yes, very impressive because Isner only goes to tiebreaks.
Yeah, that means he has more at-bat opportunities to serve aces. So the fact he's 5th and not 1st is kind of funny.
Exactly. So now we're going to go to Stefanos. So he got fined for coaching. Although it is now legal, he still got fined when he played with his brother when they beat the defending champions in the French Open. And then he got fined again when he played Alcaraz. So apparently there is coaching, but you can't be yelling across the court to coach somebody. You can only be when it's right there in front of you, not shouting instruction across the court. So he got fined a nice hefty sum. I think it was more than $25,000 or something. What are your thoughts on Stefanos here?
This is a passionate coach guy. This guy wants to be talked to and have his hand held through matches. Every point, it seems like, It's very odd to me how much he needs to communicate with his box throughout an actual tennis match. Do you think that this is his Achilles heel and why he's struggling to break through?
Yes, I agree. I mean, there's just too much instruction, and a lot of the times I think that he feels it's kind of useless, so he kind of gets upset, in my opinion.
Yeah, it might also be the reason he's losing matches, him relying on talking to his box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, it's so funny because he would kick the mom out, and then mom and dad separate, go sit over there. I mean, it's just too much drama.
You're adding variables to the stability of your match, right? Now you're relying on the morale between you and your box on top of your morale going against an opponent. It's like you have either a teammate or an opponent in that crowd, and now you've got an opponent on the court. And if the stars don't all align, you're not going to be playing your best tennis now.
Exactly.
It's a little odd.
Exactly. So now the big news is Tsitsipas' physical trainer ends their cooperation. He said that, this is what he said, it's worthy for me to read it. He said, I'm not satisfied with his work ethic. I don't think his ultimate goal is to reach the top of the rankings or win Grand Slams.
Wow.
The team atmosphere doesn't match my energy. So we have different priorities.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on that statement?
It's very crazy to hear that from someone like that, from that part of your team. You know, it speaks to maybe what's really going on behind the scenes with Tsitsipas and why we aren't getting what we think we should out of his game. I wonder how accurate and true it is, because if that's the case and it's true, we know what's going wrong in the background. But on the flip side, what incentive would that person on his team have to lie?
That's true.
You know, like, what are his motives? So I am curious, because he's walking away from a star athlete as if he has a line of people waiting to hire him.
Right.
So that does make me wonder that also. Where's he going to go next? And is he that in demand? Is he going to move over to a Grand Slam mindset pro who has the talent to match? It's interesting to hear, but I'm not a huge Tsitsipas fan when it comes to his off-the-court personality. So to me, this isn't surprising. I think that his game is beautiful. I think he's an incredible striker. I like the way he swings a racket, but I've always sensed that between the coaching dynamics, the unusual banter and press, the dynamics between him and his family on the court, there's just a lot of things that irk me about the way he navigates his career. This is just another notch to reinforce how I feel about him as an athlete. So, not feeling it. Feeling it.
Well, he pretty much just nailed what we just said. The atmosphere is just too much, and there's too many voices. I mean, there's not one direct path. So I can see why he did that. So maybe he needs to control his atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, he hired Philippoussis and then went, no, I want my dad back. I'm so sorry. So, you know, there isn't just a straight path.
Seems chaotic.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So now we're going to go to Nadal news. We just talked about the Usain Bolt thing, but now there's more news. He's going to skip Wimbledon. Are you surprised?
I'm glad. I think it was a great decision. I don't think he needs to be at Wimbledon. I don't think the grass is going to do him any physical favors in regards to being able to perform well right after at the Olympics. And let's keep in mind, Olympics are clay.
Yes.
Stick to the clay. Stick to the dirt. Don't try to force the transition to the grass where you're not going to play at your best anyway. You're going to draw a monster in the first or second round with your seeding. Don't waste your time. And we've heard Nadal speak countless times about if he's not going to be able to give it his best and have a shot seriously at the event, he doesn't want to do it. So I think he can. We've said this already, but there are takeaways positive for the way he had his performance at the French. I'd like him to just work off that momentum. I don't need to see anything possibly go wrong at Wimbledon. We don't want to see an Andy Murray episode, you know, where something flares up or something happens on court. And I think that he really wants to do something at the Olympics. Obviously, he's got a commitment to Alcaraz for doubles, and I doubt he wants to jeopardize anything. So,
yes, I agree.
It's a good call.
As a matter of fact, he's going to skip Wimbledon and go to Bastad, which is a clay court event starting on July 1st. And then he's going to go to the Olympics where he is going to play doubles with Alcaraz.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
It's a perfect game plan. It seems like he's moving wisely. Go get on that clay, do a little tune-up, get your body feeling good, make sure that you're acclimated and prepared to play well at the Olympics, and do what you can. That's it. You know, I think his game plan is rock solid.
Yes, I agree. Do you think they'll make noise? We've talked about this before, but worthy of bringing it up again. Alcaraz, Nadal, are they going to make noise?
So here's the thing. Let's keep in mind that the Olympics is not an ATP event, right? So the dynamic of crowd etiquette, atmosphere, where you're playing, what country, all these things have heavy influence on the result. In my opinion, these are two beloved athletes playing together on the dirt where they specialize in a country where they're extremely loved. I think that everything is in their favor, and it's almost on a silver platter for them to make some noise. I think this is a great opportunity. Nadal is a phenomenal doubles player. Alcaraz, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know there. He doesn't have a double serve. His net game is beautiful in sequence when he's coming from the baseline to the net. We don't see a lot of Alcaraz stationary at the net type of play.
Right.
How good is his poaching? How good are his reads? How good are his crossovers? How good is his gambling? I don't know. Alcaraz is going to be the determining factor on how well they do, in my opinion. But I do think Alcaraz is extremely coachable. We do know that. And he's going to be playing with the best possible mentor. So, great opportunity here. I think that as long as their chemistry is good and Nadal is forthcoming with the coaching, we could see something really good.
Yes, I agree. Obviously, Nadal has excellent hands. Alcaraz, coming forward, as you said, does too. But he does have a kicker that could set up Nadal. Mm-hmm. So I think they would do okay, actually.
Okay.
So, obviously, he won the French Open. He is the youngest man to reach major finals of all three surfaces. What are your thoughts there?
I'm blown away by his Wimbledon results last year. To me, that is the real niche detail that just, I can't believe it happened. I knew Alcaraz, it was almost mind-blowing he didn't win the French Open last year. I was surprised. He cramped and got nervous and anxious and lost. The U.S. Open is the one where you just never know who's going to win it, so it's not as crazy. Him winning Wimbledon. I mean, at that point, we kind of knew this was going to happen, right? You know, it's just a matter of time before he gets his French. He had already got the U.S. Open under his belt. Alcaraz, to me, is the best all-surface, new-gen player to come out of anything since the Big Three. And it's not close. He is by far the most impressive. The adaptations and adjustments he made on grass, no one saw coming. Nobody saw it coming. What he's doing on the hard courts with his movement makes it look like he's on clay. This is the guy. This is an all-surface superstar.
Yes.
Only thing stopping him is his health. That's it. And he's actually growing his game further. If we see him improve that serve, I'm telling you, the separation between him and Sinner, it gets bigger. If he fixes that serve to make it as dominant as we saw what Djokovic did, where Djokovic was kind of just a really nice kick serve, and then all of a sudden he was winning first serve points for free. We see that transition happen in his game. We're talking about a guy winning 3 slams a year.
It's funny how fickle the fans are. After Australia, Sinner's the man. Nobody's going to touch him. And I was in this podcast, I was saying, I don't think Sinner has the game to play on clay. Obviously, he was up, and he could have had him. But Alcaraz's shots are more favorable to clay. So where are the hecklers now?
Yeah.
And Zverev, I hate to toot my horn, but I did say he was going to make a deep run. I did say he was even going to win the title, but he made it to the final.
Yeah. Zverev did what me and you kind of anticipated. He's a great clay court player.
Yes.
And you know what's funny? I'll say this. This is my take for Sinner and Zverev. They lost the war of attrition in their matches.
True.
Alcaraz looked like he was still in the first set and the fifth set of that match. Alcaraz just was able to play at a high level the entire distance of all his matches, and there was a drop-off for Sinner. I don't know if it was the injury or the cardio, or if it was lack of cardio because of the injury, not being able to train his lower body. I don't know. But Zverev, I'm not really sure what the excuse is besides his body not being optimal for long, long matches. That's all it could be, right? So, yeah, it's interesting to see, but Alcaraz's physicality was the separation point.
Yes.
So, who's going to overcome that? You know, it's like training for a marathon going against that guy.
Exactly. And before we give more stats, we're going to talk about certain stuff that people are talking about. So, obviously, we have the diva here, Patrick Martaglio, Mr. Hollywood. When I was at the French Open, a fan wanted his autograph, and he said, go sit down somewhere. So he's I'm coaching Holger Rune right now. He's playing Dan Evans, who is not a clay court specialist at all. And he's just, sit down. But anyway, you know how controversial he can be.
Yeah.
Right? He said, this is by far the worst match Alcaraz has played against Sinner. The preparation was horrible. He was down, but then when it mattered, he came up. Obviously, fans are all, what the are you talking about? He hit over 60 winners.
Yeah.
What you're saying makes no sense. And then other people are all, he played the big points well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Martagliu's comment on Alcaraz?
I think there's a little bit of a mix of truth and exaggeration there. Did Alcaraz come out and not look the best?
In the beginning, he didn't.
Yeah, I agree with that part. Was he playing the worst? Come on, man. Heavy exaggeration there. And I will say this. Were those last sets Alcaraz's level going upward, or was Sinner's level going downward? I'm of the ilk of thinking Sinner's level went down a bit in the end of that match. So I do get a little bit of where he's coming from, but ultimately, that was an extremely high-level match. That was a great match. I mean, when I talk about Sinner's level dropping, Alcaraz having a rough start, I'm talking about thin margins. This isn't like he came in flat and played bad. This is just a matter of, was he playing the best possible tennis he could every point or not? It was still a very high-level match between two high-level athletes. And I really do think it was just a war of attrition. We've seen countless times Djokovic do it, and no one's talking about how bad he played the first sets.
Exactly.
And war of attrition. He's the fuel tank's there. Maybe that's the strategy. Maybe the mindset is, hey, give what you have in the first two sets, keep your level high, but let's hit the gas pedal on the tail end of this match and really push things. Maybe that's the strategy, and it's not a bad strategy. We've heard even Nick Kyrgios is out there say they kind of go through the motions in one set and then hit the gas pedal the next set. We've seen this kind of stuff. So I think Martagliu is a little short-sighted here.
In that case, he played terrible in the Wimbledon final against Djokovic. It went to 5. It came down to a couple crucial points.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes these pros pick when they're going to start playing.
Yeah.
And when they're down 2 breaks, why are they going to push to get tired?
Yeah.
So I don't know. He must be just watching something that we didn't. But now the other big news was obviously Zverev with the out call. Serve was called out, but clearly it was in, or vice versa. I don't remember what it was at this point.
He got robbed on the second serve.
Yeah, he got robbed on the second serve, yes.
Yeah.
And people were saying this is what changed the match. Do you agree with them?
Yes and no. I think it was a pivotal point. I do think it was a pivotal point. I think that at the end of the day, he lost a war of attrition. And to me, that point doesn't shift what his body will be feeling like in a 5th set. So that's my ultimate thoughts. And if we're talking about you losing by a margin of 1 point, that's part of the game.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you're looking back on it and going, that 1 point, that one shot, then that means you didn't do enough. And I hate to say that because sometimes that one shot is a difference maker in the outcome of a match. For example, Djokovic taking the ball out of the air at the U.S. Open versus Federer and then winning the next 3 sets. But ultimately, the morale, the mindset, what Zverev's feeling after that situation would have been totally different. We would have saw maybe a guy who keeps going a little harder while he's tired. So I get where he's coming from. I really do. I sympathize for him. Yes,
obviously, we already talked about it. The French Open will go to Hawkeye next year, so all this drama, picking the wrong spot, all that is going to stop. But he actually said the right things. He said that actually this time in this final, I lost.
Yeah.
But I played at what I was supposed to play at.
Yeah, he gave everything.
So he said that. He said that he was happy that he was able to do that. And then he said that it didn't matter if Alcaraz didn't win any more slams, that he already has a Hall of Fame career. What are your thoughts on that statement?
It's 1,000% true. I mean, I think Andy Roddick has a Hall of Fame career, and he has 1 slam. And let's talk about the age that Alcaraz has done all of this at and the people he had to go through to do it. He's definitely a Hall of Fame athlete already at 21 years old or whatever age he is. You know, Zverev's 100% right. And I do love that Zverev acknowledged he choked on that 2020 U.S. Open final.
Yes.
He did go, look, that was on me. I should have played better. I could have performed better. But this time around, I gave it all, and I just got outplayed at a few narrow margins, a few points here and there. And I love that he's open and transparent about that. And it just really speaks to me about why I think he's got a slam in him. You know, he gets it.
He will.
You know, he will get one, and he understands what it takes. And he said, hey, I lost the war of attrition. He seemed to just be fresher in the fifth set. He seemed to be stronger, and he was like, my level went down a bit. You know, it's just what it is. So I'm sure he will come to his next final against Alcaraz more physically prepared, to the best he can be at least.
Yes, I agree. So now comes the stats. All right, so obviously there's only one man that has made the Roland Garros final at a younger age than Alcaraz, and that's the man himself, Nadal. Thoughts on that?
No, not really. That's the GOAT of clay, as expected. There's not much of a think piece you need to do. If you were to ask me who's the youngest guy to win or go to a clay final, I'd say Nadal every time.
Okay. Among active players, obviously there's three players tied with 3 slams. Murray, Stan, and Alcaraz. What are your thoughts on that list?
I love that list, but I think a year from now there will only be one person on that list. So that's interesting also. Alcaraz is in the company of guys that are 37, 38, you know. That's how long it took them to get 3, and he's got 15 more years left in his career. So, very interesting.
Yes, I agree. And now we're going to talk about the statement he made. So here's where the drama comes in. He said, hopefully I reach the 24. But right now, I'm going to enjoy my 3rd one. Obviously, people are all, oh, this guy's cocky. Super cocky.
What? Really?
Yes. They're, super cocky guy. And,
weird.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Is he being cocky?
No. What? There's nothing cocky about that to me. You know, this is a guy who is equal to Andy Murray in slams at his young age. This is a guy who obviously has come on the tour and is only able to beat people in the big 3 because he has self-belief. You know, if you don't have that level of delusion and self-belief, how are you going to do what he's done so far? You know, I think that's what separates Sinner and Alcaraz from the generations that came right before them is the arrogance, the self-belief, the thought, I'm going to take that guy out. I came here to beat that guy. I'm obsessed with Djokovic. I think about Djokovic when I'm at practice. I want to play him to win the final. That's the stuff he was saying.
And he's backing it up now.
He's backing it up. And Sinner was saying it, and then all of a sudden he was backing it up. You know, so to me, if you really think Alcaraz and Sinner aren't in their practice sessions with their coaches talking about winning 25 slams, you're a nutcase. They're thinking about it. They're talking about it. I'm grateful they're saying it in press because they don't have to. But I promise you, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic are all talking about beating each other when they're private. I promise you, you know, they're just as arrogant and they believe in themselves just as much, and they are showing up to kill each other. If you think that players win more than 10 slams without thinking of killing each other, you've never played high-level sports. There's nothing arrogant about that. Every player who's won slams has that inside them. All of them. And the ones who don't, retire.
Djokovic was saying that when he won his first slam, beating Tsonga. He was all, I'm here for Federer. So everybody does it.
Yeah.
You know, they have that belief within them that they're going to do it.
You have to. You know how many people Federer beat with just his aura on the tour because they didn't believe they could beat him? Those guys are all gone now. You know what? Those guys never made it. You have to walk out there certain you can do it. And if you aren't, you will lose every time. This is our last topic, right?
Yes, there's more though.
Okay, well, I have a little anecdotal story topic-y thing to go along with this.
Okay.
Federer just gave a speech at Dartmouth.
Yes.
And in it, he said a very interesting statistic that I thought was very representative of what it takes. He said, look, at the end of my career, I had a post 80% win percentage, right? I won at least 80% of all my matches in my career. And that sounds incredible. That means if I walked on the court and played 10 matches, I only lost 2 of them, no matter who was on the court. He was like, but what you guys don't know is I only won 53% of my points. Just over half of my points. What separates me from everyone else is 3 or 4%. You know, and it's showing up on the big points. It's believing you're going to win and doing the right things and working on just winning enough to be separate from everyone else, you know. And that's the self-belief percentage, right? When it's deuce and you're going against Djokovic, do you think you're supposed to win that point? Because if you don't, you're going to be that 47% and he's going to be the 53%. That's the difference, right? So I think that Alcaraz and Sinner understand that a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of self-belief, that's the difference maker.
Right.
So I love it. Federer clearly, he articulates it much more polite. He doesn't sound cocky. If you don't think Federer is cocky, you are crazy. Federer is out there, he could be down a break, and he's in his head going, I'm going to win this match. I promise you he is, you know, and I know Djokovic is down 2 sets. He's in press conferences going, I love it. That's the deep waters. I'm taking them out to the deep waters. If you don't think these guys talk like that, you got another thing coming. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. These guys think they're winning every point, you know, so yeah, it's funny to hear, but I do not think Alcaraz. I actually think Alcaraz is less cocky than the big 3. That's my take.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve a little more. I think he's a little more transparent than he should be. I think that Nadal, as much as we see him being honest and wearing his heart on his sleeve, he's a true gentleman.
That's
true.
So
although he thinks he's going to steamroll people, he would never say it. But he thinks it.
I don't see Alcaraz mocking Sinner.
No.
I remember Djokovic mocking Nadal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it got close, all of a sudden, there was a rivalry now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see that from Alcaraz.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah. I end all this just to say I don't think Alcaraz is that cocky at all.
I agree.
I think he's realist.
As a matter of fact, I think it was a couple of WTA players. I think it was Goff even who said, "You only won 53% of your total points." I don't think so. So yes. But now the last topic. Top of the ranking. Sinner 1, Alcaraz 2, Djokovic 3.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the end of the old guard?
Yes, I think it is. You know, it's funny though. Before the Djokovic injury, the answer is no.
Yeah.
So who knows? I've never seen someone with a severe knee injury come back and be the best in the world before. But Federer did it for 1 year. 1 year though. Just one. And then his knee was gone after that. So we'll see. But I give Djokovic maybe one more good run. That's it. And I don't think he's the best on the planet during that run. I think he's just going to be a threat.
At the Olympics, if he does make it, it's 2 out of 3. He plays a little better 3 out of 5 to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be hard for him to win the gold, but you never know.
Yeah.
But here, this is the first time that both the WTA and the ATP have the 1 and 2 born in the 2000s.
Oh, another shift. That's a big difference.
Big thoughts there?
Yeah. We're really transitioning here. You know, the 90s babies are fading away. The 80s babies are fading away. And we got the 2000s babies running the tour now. So that's exciting. That is exciting to hear. And it's about that time. You know, these big 3, they stayed longer than anyone thought they would. They really did. They dominated longer than anyone could have predicted. And honestly, I think this is right on schedule.
Yes, I agree. And now the big statement that he made. I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Alcaraz said, "This is what we need. The young guns at 1 and 2." And then he did a little smirk. And again, the people, cocky. And then some people are, no, he's being a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Alcaraz's statement? about the young guns that tennis needed the young guns at 1 and 2?
It's funny, first of all. Obviously, I'm laughing at it. It is funny. I feel like it's a little... I think because he's so ambitious about his English now, stuff is extra funny when he says it because he doesn't know how to articulate it in a gentleman's way. So he just says stuff straight line. And, so it's very direct and can sound a little bit... I don't know if obtuse is the word, but he sounds very forthcoming with his thoughts instead of being subtle and light with it. I love it, though. And I think there's truth in it. I do think tennis needs the new generation to guide the tour. We can't rely on Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer to sell tickets forever. We can't. And the other generations weren't able to take the torch by force. So someone's got to do it. And these guys are superstars. People love them. They win a lot. They have great mindsets. They're charismatic. Tennis needs them. It really does, and we have stability still because we know what it's like when your goats leave a little too quick and then your new goats don't really take the helm quickly enough. And you get these awkward transition periods where you don't know who the hell's going to win anything and everyone's collecting slams. And you start getting the ATP in 2001 through 3, where it's just the Wild West and everyone's collecting slams. The WTA a couple of years ago. This is good. This is good news.
Yes, and they both left their mark by beating Djokovic at his events.
Yeah, his peak events.
Yes, nobody thought he would lose that Wimbledon final. Nobody thought he would lose in Australia where he's the man there. And he lost to both these guys. So, yeah, it's definitely a shift in the guard for sure.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's everything.
All right, in that case, I hope you guys were entertained.
ATP. Adios.
Until next time.